Monsieur Charest has been kind enough to join us this morning from Montreal, and it is great to see you. And maybe, should we start 40 years ago? Go back to the beginning moments there, early impressions.
Well, I was 26 years old and elected in a wave that brought the Mulroney government to power, and it would be a sea change for Canada. A whole new era was opened up. And the Mulroney government, and he was very much an activist government. He was a transformational prime minister. He was not transactional. He believed in the mandate of a prime minister to change the country for the better. And what was interesting, John, about him, it was his courage. And his, you know, he governed at a time where the assumption was if you're a prime minister or a premier, you have political capital to spend, and your responsibility is to make the right decisions for the long term, even if they're controversial, even if they may be unpopular. And if you understand the art of politics, you'll be able to navigate that and get through it. And that's exactly what he did, whether it was national unity or free trade or the GST. He very courageously led on these issues and changed the country for the better. So Canadians, we owe him a very, very deep debt of gratitude for that leadership.
I've heard a lot of people talk about his willingness to invest in relationships. And I think it's an important thing to talk about in the current political environment in which we live, where the easy thing for people to do if investing one's time in a relationship ultimately doesn't serve you as you might hope, because every relationship has its ups and downs, and sometimes there are painful lessons from it. It never seemed to sway him from just staying committed to that. What were some of your takeaways on his philosophy on that front?
He was a very generous man. He liked people, and he believed in these relationships, and he knew that these relationships could make a difference. I mean, we're talking about life, John. I mean, this is what life is made of. And that was true for his caucus, it was true for his family, it was true for people that other leaders, and it made a difference. I mean, this weighed heavily on his ability to get things done. And those of us who worked with him closely saw that time after time. I will give you one example. I'm Minister of the Environment in Rio in '92, and the organizers of the conference, Marie Strong, asked to see me and want Canada to be the first G7 country to sign the Climate Change Convention. And so I talked with the Prime Minister, reported that back to him. He asked me my recommendation, and he followed the advice that we were giving him. But he said to me, make sure you call your American counterpart. It was Bill Riley of the EPA at the time. Don't take them by surprise. And the Americans are not going to be coming through this Earth Summit in good shape. They were very much the object of criticism. He paid attention to these things, John, that made a critical difference in our ability to get things done. On the international stage, we punched way over our weight in the Mulroney period. We had, you know, the influence we had was quite remarkable. And so he understood these things about life, and that is something for which he'll forever be remembered.
You know, speaking of remembrance, the thing that I was thinking about over the last day was how oftentimes we would turn to Brian Mulroney to reflect on the life of other prominent Canadians or leaders around the world, because he had formed those relationships and he knew the right things to say in the moment. And I wondered, gosh, here's this big moment and he's not here with us. But it is kind of a special thing to see people who work so closely with him, like yourself, who are there to speak about his life and legacy. So I guess before we let you go, Jean, you know, when people think about the legacy of Brian Mulroney, what else comes to mind?
I think what comes to mind is a man who loved his country very deeply and who was ready to put himself at risk politically to advance the things that he thought were important for this country to be successful. He was ready. It wasn't just about polling, and it wasn't about, he was ready to put himself out there and on the front line, whether it was national unity, whether it was free trade, whether it was the GST and the economy. John, he was of that ilk and generation and rare. He wasn't a populist. I mean, this wasn't about doing what was popular. It was about doing what was right. And you know what? Because of him, you and I and other Canadians have a better life today.
Mr. Charest, we really